Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel dedicated to bringing awareness, understanding, and ways of healing of the lived experience that complex trauma creates. Now, in these initial videos, I want to start to create a list, a wish list, an outline of where to begin and what kind of identifying what you have and what things would be great to bring in to be able to have an ecology that will support you throughout your healing journey. And one of the beginnings of this, one of the foundational steps is answering the question of what traumatic experience actually is. Now, in this modern world, trauma is a word that gets thrown around so often that the lines between the statement and the experience have become very grey. So much so that so many facets of this society are focused far more on the justification of trauma and experiencing it rather than ways of preventing and healing. Now, for me, traumatic experience lies more so in the felt sense experience of what trauma creates, how your body and being responded, all the fundamental things and aspects of self that have changed far more than the experience itself. Because within all these experiences lies the path and all we need to know to be able to heal. Now, the mechanisms around our traumatic response, and a traumatic experience is something that overwhelms our body's ability to respond. We are unable to fight it off, escape from it, or prevent it from happening. All these mechanisms that kick in around survival developed when we were hunter-gatherers, back in the days when we were first learning to walk upright. And these mechanisms have not really evolved much beyond that state. They are all around preservation of your fundamental physical needs to survive. And the paths to healing them, because we are a communal being. When we made it back to family in our village, and we knew we were safe, we knew we were protected, we would tremor release it out. We would have the processes of connection and healing and so forth, so that we would overcome those experiences and convert them from a trigger into a memory. In our modern society, most of those fundamental structures no longer exist, or are so spread out and not defined that we are not aware that they exist. And that's part of what these initial videos are about, is identifying in our circle of life what we have and what we need to create to help us heal. Now, in understanding our traumatic response, there are some very simple questions to start this process. So get a pen and paper and take some time to answer these questions. Really look at them over a few days and take the time to really understand what these questions are about. Now, these questions revolve around, as I said, this is the very beginning of starting to define what we have to work with and what we need to find, and keep them in that context. So the first question is, how do you define safe? And safe is a very simple word, but it has a huge meaning. And in healing trauma, it is one of the key words. If we achieve a state where our body knows and feels safe, all those natural mechanisms that I spoke of earlier will kick in, we will tremor release it out, and we will heal. And that is the ultimate goal. As I said, the holy grail of healing from trauma is belonging. When we belong, we are safe. We are part of. Now, when you understand traumatic experiences, particularly early childhood, I know myself that when I first answered this question, I realized that I have never, and to this day I still have never experienced what safe actually is. And that is a pretty scary reality, but it's a base that you can work with when you understand it. And what I mean by safe is Yeah, we have the fundamentals of the human need for safe, which is food, shelter, clothing, and safety. But a lot of it revolves around that social structure of family. And being a removal at birth, I don't have that. So when you answer this question for yourself, you start to define your parameters. And for me, when I've answered this question, I now know what I'm seeking to create in my ecology to help give me that sense of safe. And I'm slowly getting there. Where I can't have biological family, I have close friends. And they fulfill those roles. My beliefs and practices around my spirituality are also there to fulfill those roles. And this is what I mean when you identify something. It might not be easy to heal or fill those needs, but you can find ways to work with it. Now, the second question is, how do we define connection? How do you define connection? And I will do multitudes of videos around attachment and all the attachment styles and structures and so forth. But for now, it's what do you need? Because attachment is part of safe. Having connections to people is part of being safe. It defines the living component of being safe. And we are wired to have a father figure, a mother figure, at least one set of grandparents, and at least one sibling or a significant other. That is genetically passed on as part of this communal structure that we as a species are designed to be part of. We are a communal species. So in understanding connection, you cannot heal trauma by yourself, being alone. Trust me, I've tried for decades. You cannot do it. You need to be part of something for that safety mechanism and that connective mechanism to kick in, for your body to release the stored response to being overwhelmed by trauma. So this stuff is really important. And lastly, for this video, is answering the question of what do you require to heal from what happened. Start to outline a framework of what you would need in your life to be able to heal, and what you would like to see happen to define that you are healing. As I said, really take some time and work with these questions. Really take your time and explore these questions. Because I know myself, like I asked these questions several decades ago. And I've asked these questions 2 weeks ago. And each time I ask these questions, I go deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of understanding them and their implications. And there'll be a lot of videos around the realizations revolving around scaffolds that we create to cope and to survive, and to fill the deficits associated with many of these questions. So please take the time to answer them. And please feel free to ask any questions. As I said, in the description of this video is the email, which is aboxwithnolid@gmail.com, or in the comments, and I will endeavor to make videos to answer those questions if you're having difficulty. But take the time. And as I said, the questions are, again, how do we or you define safe? How do we or you define connection? And what do you require to heal from what happened? So take the time, answer these questions, and be kind, be gentle. Please be respectful of yourself. As I said, these initial videos are around identifying the bits and pieces we have and the bits and pieces we're going to need. Not in pulling apart the reasons why we don't have. That will come at a later date. It's like you don't go on a hike into the wilderness without gathering the bits for your rucksack. And that's primarily what we're doing. We're about to start a very, very, intense journey. And we need some pieces to prepare. And this is part of that preparation. So as always, you are worth the investment of the time you put into this. You are worth the investment in your well-being. So please be kind, please be respectful and gentle with yourself. And I look forward to seeing you next time.